Hello everyone, this is the HQ14. Now, I've recently revived a love for dragons and armored heroes, whether they're friends or foes, kind of depends on the situation. But I've been drawing lots of pictures of medieval style knights and adding lots of lore. So I'm making these quote unquote lore reports, little world building logs. I'm aiming for all of them to be pretty short and just cover a couple pictures that I've drawn. Now, before I get started, I do have to say this may unintentionally converge on some of the artwork of Sawyer Lee. He draws dragons. It's pretty cool. I recommend you go check out his YouTube channel. The link should be in the description. But my planet, my world, it was roughly inspired by his at first, but it quickly diverged. So I'm just saying, if there are some similarities, he was a big source of inspiration. I call my project Tempered Maw, almost like a blacksmith forging a sword. They temper the iron. And then maw, that obviously refers to the mouth, big teeth, a huge set of jaws of a roaring dragon. So Tempered Maw is the name of my project. It takes place on an Earth-like planet, and when I say Earth-like, I mean pretty much an exact replica of Earth. So there's going to be same angle relative to the sun, only one moon, same gravity. Pretty much everything's the same except for the continents and the people, and also the wildlife. There will be dragons. So the people here have medieval technology. They're kind of stuck in that era, but they have the more advanced kind, and they're also a lot more refined with it. So they have things like crossbows and ballistas, Greek fire, kind of those ancient flamethrowers, and they also have firearms. So back in the day, whenever guns were first being invented, there could be a knight in full armor and then someone holding a weak pistol. And since they weren't as strong back then there was a very real chance that if that person shot the knight and it only dented the armor and didn't go through, then that knight would be pretty much immune to those bullets. And there's a very real chance that that person could actually win the fight, the person with the sword wearing the armor. Getting into the actual wildlife of my world, dragons are going to be stem group amphibians, meaning they actually have an ancestor that would be a lot more like a salamander or a frog, just capable of breathing fire. This is fun because it gives me room to have abnormal pupil shapes, like in tree frogs. Maybe there's occasional toxins in dragons. They're definitely going to have, like I said, fire breath, but they're not going to have any scales. Their skin is going to be thick and leathery, and whenever they get wounded, they can recover from some pretty crazy blows, especially like cuts and lacerations, because they can regenerate tissues a lot like axolotls. There might be some with some crazy tongues. Frogs have webbing, so that would be pretty cool if that's how they get flight. And there will be tadpoles and larvae. Imagine like a polywog of a dragon. That's kind of what I'm going for here. So there will be various degrees of heat sensing and probably mucus as well. Heat sensing will be useful, if you breathe fire. But the ancestral dragon would have been, I'm not actually going to draw it, but it would have been, like I said, more salamander-like. And it's going to have the ability to breathe fire, and it will have a larval stage. So in European mythology and folklore, there are distinct types of dragons. There's like lindworms, worms, wyverns, drakes, and other flying dragons and whatnot. But they aren't really distinct species in the modern scientific sense. So I want to kind of keep that idea for what the common people would refer to these dragons actually as in day-to-day life. So you got like what the group of what a dragon is, and then you have one main branch over here called amphigons, that being amphibian dragons, and then the other main branch contains pretty much everything else. Each one of these little lines you're seeing, wherever it ends, that's a species. And there are going to be lots of different kinds, especially the ones that you'll see in future videos. Here, though, I do want to highlight the most primitive, other than the amphigons, which are very basal in their group. The most primitive are the mesogons, meso meaning middle. And then, of course, in this area, we're going to have the drakes. They seem more reptilian and less amphibian-like, but they still retain some of the main traits. And drakes also can have mammal-like traits, so fast-paced metabolism, uh, specialized teeth, different things like that. And then as we go up, we will see there are more and more branches that arise. So there will be dragons that actually fly. Those will be called drakens, that being spelled like Drake having a K, but then dragon with ending in ON. The drakens are just flying dragons, whereas dragon in general can refer to any sort of these beasts. Lastly, you can see I have circled this branch right here and this branch right here. Those are going to be neogons, and neo means new, and that will refer to the nature of these creatures. They're not going to be your typical dragons. There's some interesting twists that I have planned that I think you'll really enjoy. But enough me ranting about phylogenies and different dragon categories. Let's get into the actual images. This is our first image. You can see there is a creature and there's a little post. The creature's muzzled and it has a little handle on that uh, kind of leather strap around its mouth. And you can see there's a knight holding a pole arm, kind of patting the underside of its chin. Now, believe it or not, this is not a neogon, this is an amphigon. So remember how I said amphigons are very basal? They're also neotenous. Neoteny is whenever you retain a juvenile trait into adulthood. So in this case, this creature stays a tadpole pretty much its entire life. Now, what's pretty fun and what I'm proud of in this design is whenever a tadpole has gills, and specifically a frog tadpole, then the chamber that the gills connect to in the throat is the same chamber that the mouth connects to. That's kind of the definition of what a gill is. But if we're saying that dragons can produce fire within their mouth, then this species, if it stays a tadpole its entire life, then it can actually produce fire out of the gills as well. Now, this flame speeder, that's what the creature is called. You can see there's all those kind of wispy things coming out the sides of the body. Those are actual flames. So in the bottom left, we can see there's a knight laying kind of on his stomach, and then you can see flames coming out the sides. These things are like the speeder bikes, just from general sci-fi, where they're levitating craft that you can ride, except these are living creatures bred and domesticated for this very purpose. This is a Vanakian royal guardsman, and you can see that the hind limbs on the tadpole are modified into these little fin appendages, and he's using them as footrests, but they also help generate lift. Now, for the exact mechanics of fire breath, I'm not going to go into it too detailed yet, but do know that creatures that retain their gills into adulthood can sometimes, at least in the amphigon clade, or the amphigon branch, they can shoot the fire out of their gills and expel it in a fiery breath. Our next image is more so a compendium of various dragon species with a little line for scale. So up at the top we have the common swamp drake. I'm going to be honest, this is pretty much just a crocodile. Now, it's much faster and it can have a more upright stance. So right now the picture is showing it kind of crouched down, and they can leap up out of the water. They swim with a side-to-side motion of their tail, and you can see right near the back of the jaw, there's a little bump covered in hairs. Those are similar to axolotl gills, where there's a projection that sticks out the side of the head. But then in our next creature, the snatcher drake, you can see that those are actually modified and they become the dragon's horns. Now, the snatcher drake has these hands inspired by amblypygids, or tailless whip scorpions, and it uses these hands to snatch up fish and small mammals from the forests that it lives in. Then you can see there's almost the next step in the evolution of dragons. There's the gargoyle. Now, the gargoyle is very basal to drakens with a K. You can see it has the long fingers, but there's actually no webbing. So it uses these long fingers to reach into crevices and burrows and kind of hook on to little animals like rats or moles or whatnot and drag it out and then eat it. And lastly, you can see there's the pigeon wyvern, which I imagine that different societies will use them to carry messages or even small boxes. And you can see that's a pretty tame looking draken it has fully functional wings and is capable of sustained flight. For our last image, we have this epic battle scene. There is a boat and there is a big sea serpent. This sea serpent is also an amphigon, so you can see it looks like a giant elongated tadpole. That's because, well, that's pretty much what it is. But you can see it has the two horns up at the top, and it's chewing something in its mouth. That something is a forest wyvern, a draken that there's four specimens tethered to the boat. They naturally live in forests, as you could tell from the name, but they were tethered to the boat as to pull it forward to make it go faster. You can see there's also various men on the ship. At the very, very front, you can see there's a person shooting harpoons at the dragon. But then nearby, you can see there's other people that have, looks like little bazookas almost. Those are hand cannons analogous to the real life device of the same name. It's basically just a gun. You put gunpowder in and you shoot out projectiles after lighting it. I find it funny that there's this guy with a harpoon and everyone else has actual weapons. But then you can see on the boat there's this post, and you can see there's a man with a hand cannon, and he's riding on the back of a dragon. So that's an auk dragon, similar to the auk bird. It lives near oceans and it nests on cliffs. This one is capable of diving and swimming and then coming up and taking off and flying away from the water. So that one, the guy's riding it, it's perfectly fine because it's not freaking out. It's native to the ocean, it knows what's going on. The forest wyverns, however, are not. They are flying around like crazy. They see a sea serpent, they have no natural instincts to prepare them for this moment, and they're just going pretty crazy. That's why one of them instantly gets eaten. And that's why the other ones are flying around in a big panic. Also, you can see that the ship has a flag. This flag probably would indicate that this is a merchant ship or some sort of royally endorsed charter ship. There isn't actually a whole lot on the boat because you can see it's pretty small. But it would at least be used for transporting some sort of goods while also carrying people, probably to send messages or maybe different envoys of ambassadors to different areas within the Vanakian Empire. Now, normally for these lore logs, I would have a minor Q&A section just to clear up any ideas or misunderstandings if I was ambiguous or maybe nebulous with my descriptions from the past videos. But this is the first video, so instead I will issue a world building prompt. How do you prefer your dragon's limb configuration? Personally, I prefer 2 wings in the front, 2 legs in the back, and walking on all fours. I'm a little bit biased, so you might see more of those in my project, but try and draw how you think it is, or how you think the best limb configuration goes, and make sure to at me if you make a post on YouTube. So with that being said, if you did enjoy this content, try and like, comment, and or subscribe if you find this interesting and if you're willing to support my endeavor. Thank you.